Hi, it's Connie Goad, and today I'm going to talk about our June 2018 budget and how I got there. This is going to be our very first monthly budget. In the past, I have, at the end of the year, spent a few days here and there calculating out what our perfect budget would be, and then copied and pasted that on my spreadsheet that I made across the entire year, and that was our budget. And we never made the perfect budget, especially since we didn't take into account necessarily quarterly costs or, like car maintenance or stickers, tags for the cars. We have a bug Terminix subscription, I guess you'd call it, and anything else that comes out quarterly or once or twice a year. We didn't really calculate that. Sometimes I would divide it out across how many weeks there were or how many paychecks we had and take out so much money, but that always ended up getting spent in other categories where we overspent, because it's not reasonable for my husband and I to say we're going to have zero eat out dollars, which is what I always put in the budget, because I don't know, I've always, I guess, felt that it's either be perfect or you don't try. And so I guess, tried to be perfect, failed, and quit trying. But this time we're going to be different. And so I put together our first budget. All right, so I don't have a fancy holder for my camera, so I'm going to hold it myself. Sorry if it's shaky. Here I used in this book his recommended percentages. You can find it on page 225, and I wrote down these percentages here, and here they are. Here are his recommended percentages, and then next to that, which you don't see here, but I wrote down our actual average expenses over the last 3 months here and checked out our percentages to see where we are. Some of it was close, some of it was super far off. And then here are our average 3-month costs that we've spent. So we saved some money. Here's our mortgage cost here. All of our utilities, that's our security system, water, electric, everything, utility-wise. This is food, this is eating out, and our grocery money. This is gas, insurance, and I don't have our payment in here. I put that down here in debt. And then this is any shopping that we did. I just put it in the clothing section because we don't buy a lot of clothes, but we do shop a lot. Then this is medical for medicine that I have that's not covered by insurance, and any doctor's visits, copays that we have. Our insurance, the only insurance that we pay out of pocket is our car, and I put that up there. In our personal spending, so that's haircuts, any clothing that we buy for ourselves. We kind of put that into personal, which again, we don't spend a lot of money on clothing. And if we want to eat fast food with friends or whatever on our own. Then our rec here, this is other spending that we did, plus our $14 a month that we have on our TV. And then this is our minimum payments on our debt right now. And then since a lot of our expenses hit during our first check of the month, we don't have enough money in that check to cover everything. So we carry over some from the second check of the month here. So this kind of ends up being a wash, but I just include that in expenses because it averages about that much that we need to cover the first check's worth of expenses every month. And then I wrote our budget out. These are our checks, dates that we're going to have this month. I wrote down any carryover money that from the previous check, his income, anything we got by selling things, everything that we earned this first check we put here. And then on this check, since we haven't hit that yet, we don't plan on selling anything else. So we just put his check and the carryover here. We put that up here as well. And then this slash here, we put the dollar amount for that line, and then subtract it out, and whatever we had left over of our income for this check, we put that dollar amount here so it was easy to kind of carry it down. So these are the expenses that we have for our checks, and then anything left over at the end of the month will go into our save for our moving. And once we move, anything we have left over in savings will go to pay off debt. Yeah, so that is how we did our budget. So I wanted to real quick show you my spreadsheet that I set up that we used to reconcile the bank. Up here we have the dates for when we are going to get paid, and then in the green area we put any income that we're going to receive. Here is all of our bills, subscriptions, whatever that is set has to get paid. There's no, I mean, unless you cancel a bill like LA Fitness or something, this is what it is. And then up here you see we'll put in our budget once we make it and have the dollar amounts in the normal fields, and then we'll highlight it blue once it goes through the bank statement. So if we hit January 18th and say Verizon's not highlighted, then we can go back and see, did we pay it and just miss it, or is that a late payment, and get that taken care of. Then we have our debt section. We do the same thing here. Tithes, savings. We're going to keep the change program, so every time we spend money on our debit card, that any change left over to reach the next dollar gets thrown immediately into our savings account. Here is where we have a little bit more wiggle room in our budget, and each time we spend money, we'll just add that to that line item and just have an ongoing formula in there. And then in the end, here, this is any carryover that we had left over from the previous check to help pay. Like I said, the first check we get has to cover a lot of expenses. And then here, this is the balance in the bank. So we, on January 17th, we'll write the balance for that day, the bank balance for that day here. And that automatically gets rolled over to January 18th. And then this here will zero out if we balanced correctly. And if it's just a couple of bucks, I'll just put it on this empty line item here. But if it's a significant amount, I'll go check to see if there was an incorrect charge or if I just missed something here. So that's our budget for June 2018. As you saw, we did it in the middle of the month, so it's a little different from what a lot of budgets look like, but we'll check in at the end of the month and see how we compared. And then hopefully next week I'll have a budget for July set up so we can actually start fresh with a brand new budget and go from there. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.